So this happened when I was 16. My grandparents live way out in the middle of nowhere. Their closest neighbor is a few miles away, and it gets pitch black out there at night. I was visiting for the weekend while my parents were at a wedding. On Saturday evening, my grandparents headed into town for groceries. They said they'd be gone for at least 2 hours. This wasn't the first time they did this, so I wasn't worried. They left around 6 p.m. I made myself a sandwich and turned on the TV. That's when I noticed their old dog, Copper, acting weird. He kept pacing back and forth in front of the door and growling. He never did that. Then he started barking like crazy at the front window. I looked out but saw nothing, just darkness. I let him out the back door and he ran around the side of the house, barking his head off. Then he went completely silent. No barking, no movement, nothing. I called for him but still nothing. I stepped onto the back porch and called again. That's when I heard footsteps on the gravel driveway. I went back inside and locked the door. I tried calling my grandparents, but I had no cell service. I grabbed the landline and started to dial, but the footsteps were getting closer. I turned all the lights and the TV off and moved to the window. Then I saw a man walking up the driveway, just walking out of the darkness. He walked right up to the front door and knocked.
Hello? Anyone home?
I didn't move. He knocked harder.
I know someone's in there. I saw the TV on.
Had he been watching the house?
My car broke down. I just need to use your phone real quick.
His voice was calm, almost friendly. After a moment, his footsteps started moving around the house. He was testing all the windows. I could hear him trying to pry them open. I dialed 911 and whispered what was happening. The dispatcher said the units were on the way, but they were about 20 minutes out. Then I heard him trying to open the back door. So I decided to run to the basement. I locked the basement door and ran down the stairs. The basement was pitch black, except for some moonlight shining through the small window. I grabbed a hammer from my grandpa's workbench and crouched behind some boxes. Then the back door opened upstairs. His footsteps moved through the house, opening closets, checking rooms.
Come on out. I'm not gonna hurt you.
His calm voice made my skin crawl. He found the basement door. The handle turned, but the deadbolt held. Then he started trying to kick the door down. I climbed onto the workbench and pushed the window open. I heard him finally kick the door open. Then he started slowly coming down the stairs. It felt like he was taking his time on purpose. I shoved myself through the window, but I scraped my ribs pretty badly on the way out. When I got outside, I bolted towards the woods. I was running like my life depended on it, but I could hear him not far behind me.
You can't run forever, kid. I know these woods better than you do.
I changed direction towards the road. My lungs were burning from running so hard. I tripped over a root and slammed into the ground. I stayed down, trying not to make a sound. I could hear him moving through the woods, but he was going the wrong way. Then I heard sirens. I heard him say something under his breath and then turn around back toward the house. I started quietly making my way toward the road and flagged down one of the police cars. I was bleeding and covered in dirt. Once we reached my house, the police said they found him trying to climb through the basement window. He had a knife, zip ties, and duct tape in his pockets. But here's what still messes me up. They found a little notebook in his back pocket. There were pages of notes about my grandparents' house, their schedule, when they went to town. There were even notes about me in there from my previous visits. It was like he'd been watching the house for months. When my grandparents got home, they found Copper hiding under the back porch, terrified, but he was unharmed. Copper was never the same though. He was all jumpy, and now he wouldn't go outside after dark. Apparently the guy had confessed that he'd been doing this for years, watching families, learning patterns, writing them down in his little notebook. They linked him to 2 other home invasions where people had been hurt pretty bad. My grandparents installed cameras and changed all the locks, but my grandma still checks all the doors and windows constantly. I'm 21 now, and I still can't be in the woods at night by myself. That feeling of being chased by someone, it never leaves you. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Copper hadn't been there. I try not to think about it. This happened to me 7 years ago when I was 13. My parents were away for a family emergency, and it was my third night alone. I'm an only child, and I usually don't get scared staying by myself. I was in the living room playing video games around 11 p.m. when I heard a knock at the door. Through the small glass windows surrounding the door, I could see a man peering in. He was yelling,
I'm really hurt. Please let me come in.
I stayed back from the door and asked what was wrong. He said he had tripped while walking through the neighborhood and broke his foot. Something felt off about it. When I asked how it happened, he got more detailed, more insistent. Then his tone shifted.
If you don't help me, I'm going to sue you.
I told him I'd call an ambulance and to please wait outside. That's when his voice dropped completely.
If you don't let me in, I'll slit your throat.
My blood went cold. I ran to the kitchen and grabbed the cordless phone, moving toward the back of the house. I called 911 and told them someone was trying to break in. The operator said police were on the way, but she said that it would take a little while. Then I heard a window shatter in the dining room. I ran upstairs to my bedroom and locked the door, then squeezed into my closet, pulling the clothes around me to hide. I could hear glass crunching under his footsteps as he walked through the house below me. Then the footsteps stopped. Complete silence. My heart was beating so loud that I thought he'd hear it. I heard him rushing up the stairs. He went straight to my bedroom door and tried the handle, but it was locked. Then in a calm, sinister tone, he said,
I found you.
He kicked the door once, then twice. Then I heard the door burst open. I pressed myself deeper into the closet, clutching the phone to my chest, barely breathing. Through the slats in my closet door, I could see him slowly moving around my room. He checked under the bed, but then his footsteps came toward the closet. All of a sudden, I could hear faint police sirens in the distance. He walked right up to the closet door and looked through the slats, but he didn't try to open it.
You got lucky, kid. But don't forget, I know where you live.
Then he turned around and walked out of the bedroom and ran down the stairs. I didn't move until I heard the police calling from downstairs. When I finally came out, my legs were shaking so bad I could barely walk. The police caught him as he was climbing out of the window he broke in through. When they searched him, he had a switchblade in his pocket. Turns out he had a criminal record. Breaking and entering, assault, attempted kidnapping. He'd just gotten out on parole 3 months earlier. My parents came home 3 days early. My mom couldn't stop crying when she hugged me. The man was sentenced to 18 years, no parole. We moved away a month later, but I had nightmares about that night for over a year. What still haunts me isn't what happened. It's what he said before he left.
I know where you live.
For months, I was terrified I'd see him again. In crowds, at the store, walking home from school. I'm 20 now, and I still check the locks 3 times before bed. I still can't be home alone without feeling like someone's watching through the windows. Some fears just don't go away. My name is Ethan, and the story happened when I was a teenager. I was going to be home for the weekend because my dad had a work convention and both my parents went out of town for it. They told me they'd be back in a couple days, and I remember my mom asking like 3 times if I was sure I'd be okay. I rolled my eyes and told her I was fine. This wasn't the first time I was going to be home alone, so it wasn't a big deal. There was a bad thunderstorm that night that started around 9. I was on the couch watching YouTube videos on my phone when the first crack of thunder shook the windows. It was so loud that it rattled the whole house. The rain started hammering against the roof, and the lights flickered a couple times. I just turned up the volume on my phone and tried to ignore it. About 30 minutes later, I heard 3 slow knocks on the front door. I sat up in a panic. It couldn't be my parents. They wouldn't come back this early. I sat there for a minute, staring down the hallway toward the front door. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I was just hearing things. Then came 3 more knocks. Louder this time, but still slow. I got up and walked to the door, but stopped a few feet back. Then lightning lit up the windows beside the door, and I saw someone standing on the porch. It was a tall, dark figure, just standing there, motionless. My heart was already racing, so I called out that my dad was upstairs. It was a total lie, but I figured that maybe it would scare them off. No response. I pulled out my phone and called my mom, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried my dad, but again, straight to voicemail. I checked the deadbolt and it was locked, so I backed away from the door. I went back to the living room, but I couldn't focus on anything. I just sat there listening to the rain. Then I heard footsteps on the back deck. That's when I really started to panic. Our deck wraps around to the sliding glass door in the kitchen, and I just had this horrible feeling. I crept down the hallway and looked around the corner. There was the man standing outside the glass door. He had a dark jacket on with a hood, so I couldn't see his face. He was just standing in the pouring rain, looking into my house, looking at me. I dialed 911 as fast as I could. The dispatcher got my address and told me to lock myself in a room and stay there. She said the police were on their way, so I ran down the hallway to my parents' bedroom and locked the door. I sat on the floor with my back against the bed. That's when I heard glass break down the hall. He was now inside the house. The dispatcher told me to stay where I was and that officers were 3 minutes out. Then I heard slow footsteps in the hallway. They came right up to my parents' bedroom and stopped right in front of the door. I watched the handle turn, but it was locked, thank God. There was this pause, and I could hear breathing on the other side of the door. Then I heard this low, flat voice say,
I know you're in there.
I couldn't breathe. I pressed myself against the far side of the bed, phone clutched to my chest. The dispatcher was saying something, but I couldn't hear her anymore. Then he hit the door, hard. The whole frame shook. Then he hit it again, even harder this time, and I heard wood cracking and splintering. That's when I heard the sirens. They were still far away, but getting closer. He hit the door one more time, but it held. Then I heard footsteps pounding back down the hallway, and I heard the back door slam open. The sirens got louder. Red and blue lights flashed through the window. Someone knocked on the front door.
Police.
The cops searched everywhere. They found the broken basement window where he'd gotten in. They found wet footprints across the kitchen floor, and the bedroom door frame was all busted up. But the guy was gone. He must have vanished into the woods behind my house. My parents rushed home the next day after I told them what happened. My mom was crying before she even got out of the car. My dad checked every window and door in the house like 5 times. The thing that still scares me to death is that he disappeared and was never found. Also, he knew where my house was. At night when I would lay in bed, I would just think about his voice, how calm it was, how patient he sounded, like he had all the time in the world, like he knew where I lived now, and he could come back whenever he wanted.